Hello, dears, welcome. Welcome to my English class of the 7th standard. So today's lesson is Glimpses of the Emirates. Welcome. Glimpses of the Emirates is today's lesson. This is this is a travelogue. A travelogue. That means if somebody writes an article about a tour program or a visit someplace, then we say it's a travelogue. And this is a short, a small travelogue, a small article on a visit. So the author, we don't know who wrote this, and there is no mentioning of the author here. There is no mentioning of the author, so we don't know who wrote this. But this is an example. This is a typical traveler. This, haven't you heard of this Santosh George Kulangara? Yes, a great person, a great traveler of Kerala who traveled widely around the world. Okay, so let's come to the class glimpses of Emirates. So friends, Emirates, Emirates means UAE, United Arab Emirates. So it's shortly it is called Emirates. And this glimpses means a short look. A short look. That means you do not get much time to spend. So you look shortly and just like a glance. Okay, because the heading indicates that this is a short visit and this travelogue is a short one. And now you see the picture, and the author is he is going. Yes, he is going at the or he may arrive or depart from an airport. Okay. Now let us understand this article very clearly. Let us read the first stanza. Read with me. What would await an accidental tourist in UAE? I wondered as I came out of the airport into the open air. Yes, I was an accidental tourist. I had been to Oman to stay with my niece. I had just squeezed in 2 days on my way back home, but 2 days were enough to give me an eyeful and plenty of food for thought. The dense clouds hovering above the wings of the aircraft had already given me an eyeful, and the desert, which seemed to stretch endlessly, was a spectacle too. Yes, I think you followed me. Now let us see what the author actually wanted to convey with us. What would await an accidental tourist? Who is an accidental tourist? A tourist who visited accidentally. That means without any prior plan, no pre-plan. So it was just incidental. Incidental. So here is a question. What is the question? What would await an accidental tourist in UAE? What are the things waiting for an accidental or an incidental tourist in UAE? That means if you want to visit UAE for a short visit, what are the sites? What are the things waiting for you in United Arab Emirates? I wondered, see, the author also wondered when he came out of the airport into the open air. That means this when he reached in UAE. So when he got out of the airport, he thought of, oh, what would wait for me in this land? Yes, Really, I was an accidental tourist. He was an accidental tourist because he didn't plan this tour in an earlier time. It was not a detailed tour program. He had been to Amman. He was he was in Amman to stay there with his niece. So there was one of his nieces, and he spent few days with one of his nieces in Amman, and he was coming back. He was coming back from Amman. So he says, I had just squeezed in 2 days on my way back home. He was really coming back to Kerala from Oman after spending some days with his niece. So, within this short duration, he just squeezed. Somehow, he managed to get 2 days. That is squeezed. See, managing something at much risk because he may be a business executive or a very businessman, very busy fellow. So even then, however, he managed to get 2 days on his way back home, and he reached UAE airport. But 2 days were enough to give me an eyeful and plenty of food for thought. He says, yeah, the narrator or the traveler here says 2 days were enough. Those days were sufficient for him for a an eyeful. That means a an eyeful means a good look, and plenty of food for thought. These 2 days were enough for food for thought means food for his brain. Food, that means it provoked him provoked his thoughts. He was thoughtful. So 2 days were enough for provoking his thoughts, or he thought a lot about this UAE even though his days were only two. Yes, and the dense clouds, that means the thickly arranged clouds hovering means hanging or hanging above the wings of the aircraft. See, hovering means the rounding and rounding above. Some dense clouds, heavy clouds were above the wings of the aircraft, had already given me an eyeful, already given him a good look, sufficient look of this area. Okay, so before getting down from the airport, he had already a good sight of the area, especially about the sky, and the desert, which seemed to stretch endlessly, was a spectacle too. So, and after, see, UAE, this country includes in the deserted area. So, the desert which seemed to stretch endlessly, you seem that if you go there, you seem that this desert stretch means lie far and wide endlessly without any end. And this it was a spectacle too. It was a fantastic sight. Spectacle means a very magnificent sight. Okay, and now let's go to the second stanza. So here is a question. Why does the author say that he had squeezed 2 days? Because he was very busy with his schedule to come back to India. But even then, he somehow managed to spare 2 days in UAE. Okay. And Let's read the second stanza. The long drive in my friend Ashokan's car from Ras Al Khaimah to Abu Dhabi was a memorable experience. What was the first memorable experience of the author in UAE? It was his long drive. See, long drive from the airport. What is the name of the airport? Ras Al Khaimah. Shortly, we say Ras Al Khaimah. Ras Al Khaimah to Abu Dhabi. We say Abu Dhabi. See, Ras Al Khaimah to Abu Dhabi was a memorable experience. The first long car drive. See, it was a memorable, a very good experience. We never got tired of stopping and venturing out into the beach. We never got tired. They were not tired of stopping somewhere and see what did they do? They ventured out into the beach directly. They ventured out into the beach directly. What is it? Ventured out. See, bearing some risk. There are many risk factors, but they didn't mind it. But they directly went into the beach area. Okay. So first they went into the beach area. The sea had the same serene appearance everywhere. See, wherever we go, there we see the sea same. So its atmosphere is very serene. What is serene means very calm and quiet. Appearance means look. The sea looks everywhere same, and it is calm and quiet everywhere. One feels a kind of heavenly bliss at these quiet beaches. So when you rest or when you walk along these beaches or banks of the sea, you feel, you means whoever maybe feels a kind of heavenly bliss. What is that heavenly bliss? Heavenly means godly. We can't express those bliss. Bliss means extreme happiness. You don't know, you can't express those godly happiness that you feel when you walk along the beaches. That is the thing. Okay. So why does the author say one feels a kind of heavenly bliss at these quiet beaches? Because that feeling cannot be expressed to others. That means they get such a heavenly bliss and such a heavenly bliss when they walk along the beaches. There they get a marvelous sight and a certain atmosphere is also there. And see, all of this is called what? Heavenly bliss. Okay. Now let's move to the third passage. At Suhan in Abu Dhabi, I caught sight of something unexpected. It was the entrance to the Noor Abu Dhabi solar power plant. It is the largest single site solar power plant in the world, producing a stupendous 1.2 GW, that means gigawatt, of power. Of course, tourists are not allowed inside. Of course, the tourists are not allowed inside. I had to satisfy myself with the magnificent photographs of the power plant on the net. The plant has an amazing 3.2 million solar panels. I wish tourists were given an aerial view of the plant. Let us see the meaning. At Sihan in Abu Dhabi, Sihan is a famous place in Abu Dhabi. I caught sight of something unexpected. Something. something came into his notice. Something came into his notice unexpectedly. It was without expectation. Quickly he noticed something. That is the meaning. I caught sight of something unexpectedly. He never predicted or he never thought of it. What was that? What was the sight at Suhan in Abu Dhabi? It was the entrance to the Noor Abu Dhabi solar power plant. Yes, it is Noor Abu Dhabi solar power plant. What is the speciality of this? It is the largest single site solar power plant in the world. Oh, it is the largest single site. See, everything, such a huge one, everything is in one site, one place. So, largest single place solar power plant in the world. Everything is arranged in one place, producing it produces a stupendous, that means a huge amount of, yes, a large share of a huge amount of 1.2 gigawatt of power. 2 gigawatt, I think gigawatt means 1000 megawatt. See, 1 gigawatt means 1000 megawatt. So here 1.2 gigawatt of power. That is, we can't understand its magnitude, its size now. Of course, tourists are not allowed inside. So you can't go inside of this Noor Abu Dhabi solar power plant. It is restricted. So I had to satisfy, the owner had to satisfy himself with the magnificent photographs of the power plant on the net. Then he opened the mobile net and he understood how magnificent this place is. So he got many photographs from the net. Okay. The plant does. This plant has an amazing 3.2 million solar panels. 3.2 million solar panels are fixed in this plant. That is amazing. That is wonderful. That is why this plant is called the largest single site solar power plant in the world. I wish tourists were given an aerial view of the plant. So, tourism would have been better. How if the tourists were given an aerial view of the plant? Aerial view means the sky view. If the tourists were allowed to see this power plant from the sky. Yes, it was his wish. It was his wish, but it was not allowed. Why did the author have to satisfy himself with the photographs on the net? Why he depended photographs on the net? Because tourists were restricted and they couldn't go inside of Noor Abu Dhabi solar power plant. So entry was restricted. And now let us see the next long passage. I was able to view the imposing Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Now, the author points out another tallest thing, the second tallest thing that he saw in UAE. What is that? Burj Khalifa. An imposing means, see, a wonderful, huge, gigantic, and what is that? Magnificent Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. We know that Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world. So he climbed it. Climbing it all the way up would take you to the top of the world. So if you climb, you will surely reach to the top of the world, even though that is somehow see what is that exaggerating. But that means you can reach to the highest place. So climbing the steps. Okay, okay. Of course, I couldn't do it. He couldn't. He couldn't climb it all. He couldn't climb, and he didn't reach. But it was his opinion. A boat ride at Dubai late in the evening was a fascinating experience. So where did he go? Instead of climbing this Burj Khalifa, he went for a boat ride at Dubai. And when it was happened, it was late in the evening. And it was, how was it? It was a fascinating experience. Fascinating means wonderful experience. Very beautiful experience. And the dazzling lights. What is the dazzling? The dazzling lights and the reflections on the creek give you a feeling of being out of the world. You may feel you are not in this world. You are some you are in some other places because of the dazzling lights. See all the places beach, around the beach were lit by gigantic decorative lights, and it was and the reflections these lights reflected as in the mirror on the creek. Creek means some river like inward flow inward flow. Okay, so in between some landed area. Okay, this is usually in Gulf area. Creeks are not rivers, but we feel like rivers. So the dazzling means you can't look straight, and surely your eyes will wing. That's why it's dazzling, shining too much. See the too much shining lights and the reflection on the creek. It reflected on the creek give you a feeling of what you are not there. You are somewhere else. And it was only matched by a ride on the metro from Al Nada to stadium. Again, he got another matching incident. This was only matched by this was really matched to another ride. That means that another ride also gave a feeling of we are out of the world. What was that another ride? It was on the metro, traveling on the metro from Al Nada to stadium. Okay, this second, first one boat traveling, and second one a metro train traveling. Watching the landscape from a train is always entertaining. Enjoy. Entertaining means it give you much joy and pleasure. That is entertaining. Watching the UAE landscape from a running train is very fascinating, entertaining. But here was a landscape totally different from anything I had ever seen. But the writer says that the traveler says that here the landscape is entirely different from the landscape where he had ever seen. This landscape is something very special, he says, and it is different from other landscapes he already visited. Now, another passage. But nothing matched the Louvre Abu Dhabi Museum. Okay, but nothing matched the Louvre Abu Dhabi Museum. There is a fantastic museum in Abu Dhabi. It is called as Louvre Abu Dhabi Museum. A marvel, that is an excel by any standards. If you put any criteria, any grade, this is the first one in the world, you can say. Such a marvelous one is that Louvre Abu Dhabi Museum. It houses some of the world's most fascinating archaeological remains, paintings, sculptures, and other artifacts. It houses means it it contains it includes, that means it give place for, what are the things? Fascinating archaeological remains. See, something that connected with the old history, prehistoric period, the things that excavated from many sites and exhibited in these museums. So there are archaeological remains, paintings are there, then there are some sculptures, so some structures, maybe some human or animal or some building sculptures, and there are other sort of artifacts. So such kind of artistic things are there. It carries the name of famous Louvre Museum in France on an agreement. It carries the name. See, it is the same name of the Louvre Museum in France, because these two museums, they came into an agreement. They kept an agreement between the two. So the two museums are mentioned in the same name. Same name. Okay. Louvre Museum. It was also rendered more than 300 pieces from the Louvre for display. It has also rendered, for rendered means paid for hire. So it is rendered for many years. How many pieces are there? There are 300 pieces. 300 pieces of what? Archaeological remains, paintings, sculptures, and other artifacts. So 300 pieces are hired from the original Louvre Museum in Paris. Okay, and it kept for display, kept for exhibition or show. I thought it terribly unlucky of me to have spent only half a day in the museum. He thought it terribly unlucky. He was unlucky because of short of time. He spent only half a day in the museum. Actually, he wished to spend at least a day in the museum, but he couldn't. So he stayed there only half a day. I would have loved to spend at least a week. Oh, not a day. Actually, he wanted to spend in this museum for at least a week. There are so much things to be seen. Okay, it was really and a wonderful place for the curious travelers. So everything is arranged, and it would take for him at least a week to finish all these things. So he says he was unlucky. He says he was unlucky because of short of time. The time he squeezed on to get. Okay, because he was such a busy businessman or like that. On boarding the flight to Calicut, he got inside of the flight to Calicut. then then he wished, what did he wish? He wished he had more time for a visit like this. That was his wish. Actually, he took only 3 days, but he wanted to get more days. So there was nothing to do with him, only to wish. Oh my God, if I had more time for a visit like this, at least 2 weeks. How many weeks does he want actually? He wants at least 2 weeks. Another time. So nothing to worry now, because it was a glimpse, a short visit. It was a short visit of everything. So he is very imaginative and very positive another time, and he is never tired of thinking about, and he thought of getting another chance. I might get a chance again. I might get a chance again. He wished he may get a chance again. And you never know. Yes, we we do not know whether he gets or not. Anyhow, he pray he may get a second chance to visit UAE, United Arab Emirates. And last question. Why did the other thing he was unlucky in his visit to the Louvre Museum? Because he he spent only half a day in the museum. At least he could have spent there a week. He had to understand such a huge lots of things about this museum, but he only spent half a day. That's why he says he was unlucky. But he is quite positive, and he may come at any time in the future. Okay. Thank you, dears. This is about this short travelogue. Thank you once again for watching me. Thank you.